Previously on a neat retelling.
So, Sam, what is your wish?
I'm so glad you asked, Jazz, because I was actually at this old library and I found this really cool thing in the back between these bloody manuscripts. I think you're really gonna love it. Check it out!
Bloody manuscripts? That doesn't give you cursed vibes at all?
No, it's fine, because I looked and there was blood, but then I looked away and I looked back and the blood was gone, so I'm sure it's fine.
Okay, Don Juan Triumphant. Wait, is that like it from the Phantom of the Opera? Does that have anything to do with monsters or the dead rising, though?
Please, it is my birthday, or it was.
That is true, it is your birthday. I mean, okay. Again, the bloody manuscripts do give me pause, but I'm sure it's fine.
Yeah, and it's so beautiful, it's so gentle, it's like a lullaby.
Uh-huh.
1, 2,
there's a meet your bird door.
Sam, did you hear that? I could have sworn I heard somebody singing. Fuck!
Battle with Phantom Freddy Krueger later.
Okay. Hi, dear listeners. So, apparently Sam's initial wish managed to awaken this weird dream demon version of the Phantom of the Opera. But don't worry, Sam and I managed to home alone his ass, and then we destroyed the manuscript, so he may never rise again. And now they're gonna pick something else, right, Sam?
I want to talk about that phantom.
Sure, I'm sure nothing bad will come of that, right? Right? Well, dear listeners, we do hope you join us for talking about the Phantom Freddy hybrid that we just beat up. And remember, stories gain power in each retelling, whether we like it or not.
The opera ghost really existed. He was not, as was long believed, a creature of the imagination of the artists, the superstition of the managers, or a product of the absurd and impressionable brains of the young ladies of the ballet, their mothers, the box keepers, the cloakroom attendants, or the concierge. Yes, he existed in flesh and blood, although he assumed the complete appearance of a real phantom, that is to say, of a spectral shade. When I began to ransack the archives of the National Academy of Music, I was at once struck by the surprising coincidences between the phenomena ascribed by the ghost and the most extraordinary and fantastic tragedy that ever excited the Paris upper class, and I soon conceived the idea that this tragedy might reasonably be explained by the phenomena in question. The events do not date more than 30 years back. It would not be difficult to find at the present day in the foyer of the ballet old men of the highest respectability, men upon whose word one could absolutely rely, who would remember, as though they happened yesterday, the mysterious and traumatic conditions that attended the kidnapping of Christine Daae, the disappearance of the Vicomte de Chagny, and the death of his elder brother, Count Philippe, whose body was found on the bank of the lake that exists in the lower cellars of the opera on the Rue Scribe side. But none of those witnesses had until that day thought there was any reason for connecting the more or less legendary figure of the opera ghost with that terrible story.
Welcome to A Neat Retelling, the podcast where we explore all the ways old tales are made new. I am your host, Jasmine Garcia,
And welcome back to Monster Month 2, The Dead Are Rising.
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
Oh, it's alive! It's alive! It's alive! It's alive! Oh, in the name of God! I know what it feels like to be God!
Death is but the doorway to new life. We live today, we shall live again.
They're coming for you, Barbara.
In many forms will we return.
joining me today are...
My name is Callie, and I found this old piece of sheet music. I have no idea what it is, but I'm gonna find out!
No!
That
Put it down. Put it down.
I'm putting it down. No, putting the haram down.
Yes, forbidden knowledge. That is definitely forbidden knowledge.
Not treasure.
No.
We've learned our lesson.
And our Wishmaster guest of honor themselves.
I'm Sam Marchiony, and I fulfill 2 out of 3 of the requirements of virginal Swedish soprano.
Yay! So once again, this is indeed a Wish episode. And Sam has decided to do a more conventional choice for one of their 3 wishes. Sam, would you like to tell us what you would like us to cover then?
I decided that since it's my birthday, I want to go to one of the better adaptations of the myriad adaptations of one Monsieur Gaston Leroux's Le Fantôme de l'Opéra, or The Phantom of the Opera. I'm going to be pretentiously French several times during this episode,
Yay.
as well as being gatekeepy about opera. It's going to happen. Just roll with it. This would be the 1989 version starring Robert Englund and Jill Sholin, aka Slasher Phantom.
Greetings, I am RER60, Star Wars Retelling Connections. Point of intersection found. This is a degree 4. John Gavin played an Ewok in Return of the Jedi.
Good Slasher Phantom, not to be confused with bad Slasher Phantom who also fucks rats.
I beg your fucking pardon?
Long story.
Dario Argento. But also, there's also the Phantom of the Mall Slasher Phantom. And there's also Stage Fright Slasher Phantom. Slasher Phantom, strangely enough, has not had a good run of things. But with that said, okay, Freddy Phantom. So why did you pick Freddy Phantom?
So, here's the interesting thing. Back when I was in high school, my chorus would have this thing where we'd go to New York for, like, Martin Luther King weekend. We'd see a Broadway show. We'd perform, like, a big classical work at a couple of different churches. And the first year that we did it, my best friend had just gotten into Phantom, specifically the Andrew Lloyd Webber version. But we were getting our hands on any version of Phantom. This was back when on YouTube, I don't know if I'm about to power word age anybody else, but if you've ever heard of the Phantom Reviewer, there was a guy who just dedicated his entire YouTube channel to reviewing Phantom media. There was a lot of it.
I mostly watched that girl with the Phantom costume, but I did know of the Phantom Reviewer through her. Yes.
Very, very early internet review days. Not all of it has held up, but we were kind of obsessed. And back then in New York, it wasn't uncommon to find somebody selling, like, movie scripts on the street. We bought the script for this Phantom movie, although it had the Dario Argento Phantom cover on the front, which ended up confusing me for a very bad iTunes store purchase later down the line.
Ah, Jesus.
I
know.
That's for another episode far, far, far in the future, hopefully. So anyway, said bestie and I, we would have sleepovers where we'd read this script to each other. We would have fun with it. And, well, honestly, that entire experience, I have never stopped being a Phantom fan. I have recovered from the worst of my Phantom fangirlness. Raoul de Chagny, désolé. Je t'aime, désolé. And now I have significant opinions about Phantom of the Opera, and especially Christine Daae. I have an older video about that on my YouTube channel that you guys can check out. And until some guy decided to creep on me, I had this video series in the vein of Lizzie Bennet Diaries where I was Christine Daae, and then I took them down because A, that guy was being creepy, B, I realized it was not a good idea to put those videos of me on the internet when I was under 18. Like,
yeah, I understand.
But I used the Don Juan Triumphant aria from this movie in that series.
Ooh.
I still don't understand what the context is of this aria within the concept of Don Juan Triumphant, but as far as musical pieces from Phantom adaptations go that aren't the Andrew Lloyd Webber musical, it's a pretty good one.
You pretty much covered what's your connection to Phantom of the Opera as well in that. Most excellent. Callie, what is your connection to the Phantom of the Opera in general?
So my connection to Phantom of the Opera was in high school. I moved my senior year of high school, and our theater teacher had us watch the movie edition of the musical version. The story gets happier. The story gets happier. Sam, please stop making that face. Listeners, you can't see the face, but it's one of pain, anguish, and heartbreak. Oh, nope, now there's tears. So, my theater teacher was introducing us to Phantom of the Opera, and we found out that it was coming to Dallas as part of Dallas Summer Musicals, their theater lineup for the year. And we were like, can we go? And she was like, and then we did. And it was the first production of a theater show that I saw without my parents. Like, I got to go with my school to see Phantom of the Opera. Like, we got to do a talk back after the show. It was really cool. It was really special to me because it was, like, the first show that I got to feel like a grown-up seeing, even if I was, like, 17, Like, I was by myself with my friends, like, sitting in the balcony. And, like, that was special. So, like, the movie has a special place for me because it got me, like, it was one of the only times that year, those few years, I got to see live theater because I was homeless that year. So, like, it was really special for me getting to see that show. Got me interested in historical fiction for sure. Like, I'd already started falling more and more and more in love with musical theater, but that was what solidified it.
I saw the Broadway production, I want to say it might have only been 2 times actually, but I've seen the Broadway production multiple times. I'm very fond of it, and whether it's just the Harold Prince of it all, whether it's the Maria Bjornsson of it all, the Gillian Lynn of it all, seeing Phantom on the stage is in a class of its own. It is capital MT musical theater. It's significantly better when there isn't a convicted sex offender playing the Phantom, though. Yeah. James. Ooh.
As for me, I am also somebody who mostly got into it through the infamous 2004 film adaptation. I was like 13.
Sam's making the face again for the listeners.
Yeah.
It's just, there was a point when it was going to be Anne Hathaway and Hugh Jackman in the 2 lead roles. We could have, and I love Princess Diaries 2, but Princess Diaries 2 took this from us.
Editor Jasmine here. Van Helsing also took this from us, and we'll talk more about that on Halloween. Wink, wink.
But Chris Pine. We got Chris Pine because of Princess Diaries 2.
You're probably right, but... yeah.
Chris Pine would have broken out at some point anyway. You cannot contain Chris Pine.
You cannot, nor should you. As flawed as it is, obviously I was 13, 14. It's not like I knew any better. And being the angsty gal that I am, who is a sucker for a Beauty and the Beast-esque story, of course I fell in love with it. Weirdly enough, though, I find that there's a weird pattern with this particular genre of kind of toxic dude with innocent waif. I never really shipped Christine and Eric because I guess even then I was like, yeah, no, this isn't good for her.
Even I didn't. And that's my bread and butter. That's my shit.
It was always more just, oh, it's so sad that he's so lonely. I definitely wanted somebody to come help him, but I also still did love Christine. Like, I don't know, maybe it was the baby bi in me. Fell in love with the story. I definitely fell down some fanfic rabbit holes. Mostly crossovers in which Eric found love with some other character.
I used to have shit on my shelf of people, because it's in the public domain, people can legally publish their sequel where Eric falls in love with their super special OC, Ammonia, Darkness, Dementia, Ravenway, or whatever the fuck her name is.
Or you get Phantom of the Opera. What am I talking about? Sorry, had to bring that up. Anyway, not the point.
No, it is relevant. Like, the Dark Universe is just going to be floating around in this month. We know this. It's fine.
I was trying.
Listen.
Girlies, you cannot fix the Phantom, no matter how hard you try.
But in this one, they don't.
Yeah, actually, the writer of Are You Afraid of the Dark Universe version of Phantom of the Opera out and out said, hey, Raoul's actually pretty cool. And in this version, the Raoul figure is a monster hunting bisexual archaeologist who kicks the Phantom's ass.
Okay, look, I'll get into this podcast eventually. Okay, I just need to finish romancing every single Baldur's Gate companion.
I know.
There's lesbians who play on the Portland Polterdykes, a roller derby team.
You have vastly overestimated my interest in roller derby.
I just thought the name was punny and funny. Oh, and the Phantom's a girl.
Yeah, anyway, so Actually, the interesting thing is, before I saw the Phantom of the Opera live, even before the anniversary one that is kind of a comfort watch to me, my senior year, we all went to London, as was tradition, for the drama club. And one of the shows that we ended up seeing, if you are doing the math in your head, you're probably
Don't
figuring
say it.
out.
Don't say it.
I wish.
Never dies.
Don't worry, there's a better version out there.
Yes.
But we can't get into it.
It is a travesty that was my first live experience with the Phantom of the Opera. It truly is.
But you saw Ramin.
I saw Ramin and Sierra, and even they couldn't save it. If you have heard bad things about it, it's true. All of it.
My love for Ramin and Sierra has cooled significantly because of the Love Never Dies thing, because it's so obvious now that they use those performances to inform their Phantom performances now.
That's valid, but I don't know. I still have a soft spot for them. Like, again, I love the 25th anniversary pro shot.
It's very good.
Okay, but can we also talk about how this 89 Phantom, is also technically a retelling of Faust?
Well, yeah, that seems to be a recurring thing with Phantoms. I haven't seen Phantom of the Paradise yet, but I know that's also one of those. Like, there's just, for whatever reason, Faust and Phantom have kind of become intermingled.
Well, I mean, that is partially due to the original book where Christine makes her debut as Marguerite in Gounod's Faust, going on for Carlotta. But, the concept of a man trapped or even becoming trapped in hell because he desires a woman is very on point. I mean, partially it was also just that Marguerite was one of the signature roles of Christina Nielsen, the historical inspiration for Christine Daae, but Gaston did his research. This is a mystery writer. He does not do things arbitrarily.
No, absolutely not. But since then, I've explored some other Phantom adaptations, or at the very least seen reviews that discussed other adaptations. Unfortunately, the main video that I am thinking of is has a big ol' asterisk by it now, but point is, I have a massive soft spot for the Phantom of the Opera, and therefore I had heard about this version of the Phantom of the Opera, and mostly I was very skeptical because I had heard nothing but, oh my god, why would you cast Freddy Krueger as the Phantom of the Opera? Like, the marketing really did this movie dirty, because I'm gonna be upfront with you guys, this movie rocks! And it deserved a lot better.
It's so fun.
I mean, you can argue that it got a pretty good foothold, at least within the fandom, because Eric Destler is now the most popular way to refer to him. Like, even if you go into the Eric Destler tag on Tumblr, a lot of it's musical content.
Oh,
it's not content for this movie. I haven't even looked at the Eric Mulheim tag on Tumblr because I don't want to remember that Phantom of Manhattan fucking exists.
Speaking of Love Never Dies, yeah. Exactly. I understand. The point is, they really tried to hammer in. I guess they were really trying to get, like, slasher fans to watch this, but what they didn't realize is while there is a Venn diagram of slasher fans and the kind of people who would want a Phantom of the Opera movie, but it's not the stack of pancakes that other Venn diagrams are. I am in that, though. I am in that Venn diagram. But even I was turned off by the idea, because I don't want to see Freddy Krueger playing the Phantom. Or maybe I do, actually, because Robert Englund is actually a very talented actor, even if he did get kind of pigeonholed into Freddy. Even though I know he's cheerful about it.
Honestly, I think another reason why I really like this one is that it does kind of go back to the mystery roots.
Absolutely, yeah.
Because, like, we all know now, yes, there is a man with facial differences living under the opera, and he's obsessed with a singer. It's not a mystery anymore, but this one kind of got back to feeling like a mystery, because we have both the Scotland Yard inspector trying to figure shit out, and our Ral analog, Richard, trying to figure shit out. And this Ral is a good bean.
Yeah. And even, like, with the opening, with the dark academia vibes of... Okay, so basically the cool thing about this particular version of it is that it actually starts in modern day with Christine Day, because they did transplant it to London, which... Sure, fine.
I guess Jill Schoelen couldn't do a very good English accent.
And basically, it's modern day. Christine Day is looking for a unique piece to audition with, and her friend Meg, I was happy to hear a Meg mention, and astounded that at least the first Meg that we meet is Molly Shannon, looking like every bit the 80s geek.
She has the big poofy hair and the big nerdy glasses, and she's so cute. Let me protect her.
Exactly. And like they have pretty good chemistry actually, which as a Meg Steen shipper at heart, I am very happy. And basically they find this manuscript of Don Juan Triumphant and it starts bleeding. To give you an idea of the kind of movie we are in. Just out and out comes out and says, "Yep, this is the kind of movie you're in. Take it or leave it." And I, spooky bitch that I am, of course, took it.
I have words for that library. How are you so bad at preserving everything? Why is there so much dust on everything? Where is the librarian?
I mean, yes, but also vibe.
I know vibes, but come on.
You gotta, sometimes you have to suspend the disbelief and go for the vibes.
Anyway, it was really around that time I was like, wait a minute, does this actually rock? Because this kind of feels like a Phantom adaptation that sprang from my very specific tastes in a weird way. Literally, the only way it could have been more so is if it was an out-and-out musical. Like, you got the Dark Academia vibes, you've got the trippy dream sequence vibes. It kind of is like you put Phantom of the Opera and Labyrinth in a blender when you think about it.
Yeah, one of the biggest questions that people have had about it is how exactly are the framing device and the main action connected? Like, my take is that she is unlocking and reliving memories of her past life, and there's some wibbly-wobbly, timey-wimey shenanigans.
I mean, I thought that was an understood thing. Like, there was, like, the text crawl in the beginning where it's just like, you know, if you sell your soul to the devil, you're going to relive the same patterns over and over. So I just figured that was an understood thing.
That's not a real saint, by the way. That's not a real quote. They made that shit up.
I had a feeling. It is a tried and true thing to do at the beginning of this particular genre of movie. They did it in the Universal Horror Monsters. They did it for King Kong, for fuck's sake.
It works for a reason. A trope becomes a trope for a reason.
And I fully admit that I am a sucker for a good reincarnation story.
Yeah, the reason that people quibble about it is because Christine sings Don Juan Triumphant before the ring goes on her finger, so they're questioning, like, when was she locked into this whole cycle thing? And to that extent, I'd argue, the minute she agreed to become his student, I guess.
Yeah, and also, who cares?
Which is as good a way as any for me to gripe about the dubbing. Like, number one, that voice does not match Jill Schoelen's speaking voice. Number two, it is very clear that nobody coached her on how vocal movements work when one is singing opera. Because it's very clear she's just mouthing along without taking into account things like breath, really.
Yeah.
I get it, not everybody can be Deborah Carr in King and I, but
True.
If you're going to draw attention to it, it's gonna look fishy to those of us who know.
Yeah. Like, the only thing I could think of to maybe make that kind of work is the idea that, you know, since this is an almost supernatural thing going on, like, maybe that's why it looks off. Obviously, this is headcanon as a way to fix a flaw in a movie. I realize that is not at all what they intended, but I don't know. I think it kind of works for me.
The dubbing is a problem, though. Yeah, the dubbing is, it's someone maybe go work with her a little bit on how singing works. You tried, baby girl. You tried so hard. You did your bestest. You get a gold star for I don't think you tried at all.
I mean, that's a little harsh.
Everything else was good. I was charmed.
Yeah, no, this version of Christina's wife as hell. Like, this movie is indeed a very particular brand of 80s cheese, and fortunately is the exact type I love. And in a way, I think the bad dubbing almost increases that in a weird way.
You know?
Let's give this movie a gold star for uncharacteristically leaving the sex worker alone in the slasher movie.
Right?
It did it!
I was expecting her to die.
Jazz and I both did. Jazz and I were like, okay, she's gonna die. We know it's coming.
And then it didn't. It's like, you know what? For once, I'm gonna give you a good on you, Eric.
Pat, head pat for you, Eric.
Apparently he also tips well.
Yeah, so, okay.
Hashtag feminist, Eric? No. He's still not a feminist.
No.
The bar is so low at the tavern in Hades.
Especially with Eric's. As far as Eric's go, he might be one of the better ones, morally speaking, which is really sad.
It's still questionable because he does do a whole lot of murder.
So much murder and some pretty badass lines in the midst of said murders. There's the Freddy vibes, but honestly, like, again, this did remind me, oh yeah, Robert Englund is actually a very good actor, because in spite of some Freddyisms, it's like, no, this doesn't feel like Freddy Krueger Phantom, and thank God, I don't want that.
What was your favorite of his serial killer lines?
I was gonna go with when he kills Bouquet. What about you?
I don't know. They were all
Your
good.
suspended one?
Yes.
So, your bumbling was the work of a ghost?
Nah, it was an accident.
But you blamed me.
It won't happen again.
No, it won't. You're suspended.
That was, and just that big grin on his face is just like, yeah.
I like the one where he kills the street gang and the guy says, "You're a thing from hell," and he goes, "And you, sir, are hell-bound."
That's a good one.
Part of it is that he almost seems heroic at that moment.
Almost.
Oh, the rats one. The one with the rats. I like the one with the rats.
Yeah, I lead the rats away, and then he goes, "Then lead them into eternity."
God.
Yeah, that.
Again,
honestly, the most lackluster one is when he kills the critic. The critic goes, "I would rather die than spend another evening listening to that shrieking child," and he just goes, "As you wish," and I'm like, God damn it, the Princess Bride ruined this moment.
But, it's just like, murder, listen, we've all, people murder, it happens.
Callie, you cannot fix him!
I don't want to fix him. Jazz will tell you how I've been talking about one of my favorites lately.
God damn it. Are you actually saying that this is an Eric you're into, Callie? Is that what we're saying?
I'm not saying I'm into him. I'm just saying that I don't need to fix him. I don't want to fix them all. Sometimes I like them to be assholes.
I told you, Jazz. I told you.
I mean, they said they weren't into him, so technically I am still right.
I just like assholes, and that's all that matters.
Sure. There was actually a point where I kind of stopped taking notes because I was just having such a good time with this. Also, as much as I miss the mask in this one, the fact that he has to sew his face together rocks. That was
that is his mask.
I mean, yes.
And that's what's so hardcore about it.
Well, yeah,
it's pretty badass. You know what's sad? That's more gruesome than the 2004 version.
Yeah.
Oh god. 2004 version with some fucking eczema.
Basically, it's like...
It's not scary.
Realistically, since that was like Joel Schumacher's whole thing, that they were trying to make it realistic, it's like, Joel, rest in peace, sir. But realism was never your bag. What were you thinking? But like, if you were going with realism anyway, Christine would have probably seen something like that on the street every day.
Yeah.
We didn't exactly have sunscreen or skincare back then.
But also, like, I love, like, the little details of how there are times when you see it poking through more or less.
Yeah.
And also,
yeah,
like, the whole process. Like, do you know how rare it is for somebody to actually go with the idea that the Phantom doesn't have a nose in the traditional sense?
It's so rare. It is so rare.
I think this might have, like, been the first non-animated version, because I don't remember when the shitty animated version came up, but I think this might be the first one since Lon Chaney to have any kind of acknowledgement of that.
Yep.
And,
yeah.
I mean, clearly Robert Englund isn't shoving piano wire up his nose, but...
Yeah,
Lon Chaney did that.
Yeah, God.
Okay.
Lon Chaney was hardcore, man.
Okay.
And both of his parents were deaf, which is why he was so good at silent movie acting. Man of 1,000 faces, indeed.
You know what bums me out the most about this movie, though?
What?
No chandelier crash.
Yeah,
That is sad.
You need a chandelier crash. That's the whole reason this happened. That was like Gaston Leroux was inspired by.
I mean, the closest thing we get is the sandbag falling, which is technically closer to history given that it was a counterweight that fell, but, like...
Maybe that's why?
It's a sandbag. And there's no murder from it.
Nope, just...
I want my chandelier. Give me my dramatic ass chandelier falling. Make me happy.
But yep, nope, we just get the sandbag knocking Christine's poor ass out.
So that she can unlock her past memories.
Yeah. And again, that sequence where she's starting to fall and she's screaming, is like, that's part of where my Labyrinth vibes are coming from.
Yeah, a little bit. Especially when at the end, honestly, her costume at the masquerade, it kind of has the same vibes as Sarah's big poofy dress.
And Jill doesn't not look a bit like Jennifer Connelly at the time. I feel like somebody...
I mean, really, the person Jill reminds me of... I don't want to be mean to Jill, but she does seem like... They were like, we need Winona Ryder, but we don't have the budget for Winona Ryder.
But that's not inherently a bad thing to be like.
I feel like Winona Ryder would have come off a lot snarkier as Christine, which I'm not opposed to a snarky Christine, but...
I mean, it depends on what Winona Ryder you're picturing. Like, I'm picturing Little Women Winona Ryder. I'm picturing Dracula Winona Ryder, Age of Innocence Winona Ryder.
Not Dracula Winona Ryder. I haven't even seen it, and I know.
Listen, Dracula Winona Ryder has more in common, unfortunately, with Christine Daae than she does with Book Mina Harker.
She really does.
That's all I've heard, though, is how bad it is. The script read couldn't even be completed.
The tagline is literally "Love never dies, man."
But yeah, you are right. That is a fair point. I was thinking more Heathers and Beetlejuice Winona Ryder, but you are right.
But she was really good, though, and that's all that, like, sometimes that works out for the best.
For the most part, she's good. There are a couple of times when she has kind of, like, weird, stilted line reads, but I think I'm going to chalk that up to direction more than anything else.
Because there were some directional choices I'm like, well, that was a decision. I don't have any specifics off the top of my head, but there are just some moments where you're like, well, you made a decision there. I don't know if it was a good decision, but you did make a decision.
There were some very 80s decisions here, and I'm not against it, because, again, I like some good 80s cheese. But no, like, overall, I am really pleased with how it portrays, like, Eric just taking Christine in. Like, it's just...
Chef's kiss.
It's like, okay, yes, Mr. Englund, you are actually very charming. You should still stay the fuck away from her.
Get a job!
He has a job writing music. That's what the whole Faustian bargain was about.
Yeah, that was interesting. It was really funny seeing him doing the Faustian bargain. It's just like, oh my god, I am getting Spike before he was a vampire vibes. And I don't... Am I wrong?
I mean, technically, this is pre-Whedon, so...
Yeah, so... Oh god, did Whedon see this movie? Oh no.
Probably. That feels like a very Whedon-esque movie.
Honestly... A part of me wonders, given the stupid sequel hook they do at the end, if they were kind of hoping to do a prequel to explain how he got from the devil burning his face for the bargain to being the serial killer, just because that feels like the kind of prequel that they would make.
That is true.
Editor Jasmine here. Literally, as I was working on this episode, I found this brief interview with Robert Englund that I think it was like a year ago, where he actually talked about what the potential sequel for this version of the Phantom of the Opera was going to be. So I'm going to put some of that here.
There was always this second film to piggyback on it. That's why the Phantom of the Opera that was released has that strange ending. It's a shame because the sequel script was about the Phantom living in a subterranean world in New York.
Right.
And he has this sort of lost boys who are sort of punk rock, runaways, homeless kids that he feeds and takes care of, and he lives down there on an old robber baron's train car. And the Phantom hears from the subway, a busker, someone performing for the commuters, he hears this voice, and it's a blind girl. And And she's his muse now. Her voice is the voice that will bring his music alive. She's up there with her father, the old violinist, playing for her. And they are attacked by, neo-Nazis, and skinheads. And the Phantom is up there in the shadows listening to her, and he wants to give her his music. And he goes in and saves the father. He saves the father's life. And he sort of avenges her. And she's blind. She can't see his disfigurement. So he's able to talk to her and give her his music. And she develops that. And she takes his song on an audition to the New York City Opera. And she gets in. And she's celebrated by them. And they put their money together and they give her an eye operation and they cure her blindness. This is so romantic, but it's perfect for goth.
Right.
And, but it was this really arch romantic thing, but it had this great central landscape of beneath New York, what the story that happens beneath the city streets. And then she goes into society and then he has to retreat back underneath. And I just thought it was great.
And I'm inclined to agree. I mean, I'm not sure how I feel about the eye operation aspect because, it's always a little iffy to be curing the disability, but this sounds like such a bonkers balls to the wall sequel that I really wish we could have gotten, but unfortunately this film, as we have mentioned, did not do terribly well. Boo. But also in that interview, Robert Englund just talks about how fond he is of this movie and that it was a great adventure for him, which this man just seems to have a lovely attitude about how his career has been, and if I could have the chance to meet him at least once, I will definitely let him know that on top of course, what an icon he is as Freddy, that we absolutely love this movie.
But also, the way the ending goes, it's like, Christine, you forgot about the cloud! The cloud doesn't exist yet, but that's the best explanation I can come up with. Because the whole idea is that he is immortal unless you destroy his music. And the way we go with destroying his music is that she tears up one printout and throws a floppy disk down the sewer.
Yeah.
Okay, that should have destroyed just take a magnet to it. Take a magnet to the floppy disk.
You didn't burn down his house. He might have other copies.
Yeah.
But if you take a magnet to the floppy disk, that destroys it. That magnet would have wrecked it.
But yes, but then she hears a street violinist playing the music, because all the slashers at the time had to be all, or is it over?
Because let's face it, baby, these days, you gotta have a sequel.
Yeah. I kind of feel like Christine's gonna drop out of Juilliard and move to, California or something.
But then she's gonna get attacked by Ghostface or some shit, I don't know. You can't make her move to California. She's already a final girl.
Yeah, that's the thing. I've said it before that while obviously Christine's not literally a final girl, she does have some final girl vibes even in the novel. And obviously they played that to the hilt in this. And it was awesome. She's got a bloodstained dress. She's whacking him with whatever. What was that? A candlestick?
It was a candelabrum.
Yep.
Can someone... Okay. I need someone to explain like I'm 5. The difference between a candlestick, a candelabra.
Okay.
I live under a rock.
A candlestick is for one candle. A candelabrum is for multiple candles because it's going with labrum as in arm in Latin.
Thank you. I am dumb, okay?
You're not dumb. I just took Latin in high school.
I had to have my grades fudged in Spanish, so...
In fairness, that was because you started a new school in senior year. But anyway.
Still, not a great sign for my language skills.
But anyway, moving back to the movie. Also, second Bill Nighy movie in a row for this podcast.
Wait, shit. Where was he?
He was Carlotta's lackey.
That was Bill Nighy?
That was Bill Nighy. I saw his name pop up in the credits and I'm just like, Bill Nighy, what are you doing here?
Not a friend, Bill Nighy, that's for sure.
No.
No.
Oh, yeah, Bill Nighy, he did spend some time working with Menachem Golan in a bunch of stuff. The same year he did Mac the Knife with Raul Julia for Menachem Golan as well. But also, that character's name is Martin Barton.
Oh.
Why do your parents hate you?
They knew he was going to be a pretentious shithead, and they just wanted to run with it.
Also, can we talk about this Carlotta? Because she's a very 80s Carlotta.
Kind of one of the least interesting Carlottas out there, because...
For true. 2004 Carlotta should not be more interesting than this Carlotta.
I mean, she's Minnie Driver. Of course she's going to be interesting.
Petty and insecure and not even, like, interesting slutty. Like, the whole thing where she's at the masquerade and she starts flirting with the Phantom, it's not as interesting as it should be. It's more interesting when it's in the David Staller Phantom. And that one also gives her, like, some actual pathos in the form of she's an older woman in a business that doesn't value older women.
Yeah, but also, in spite of that, one, actress is quite attractive. Two, oh my god, her death, though.
Brutal. Decapitated and put in the soup bowl. I mean, it is kind of a problem that we don't really get a good point of comparison. Like, the generally accepted interpretation of LaRue's Phantom is that Carlotta is prestigious, but she is a technician, whereas Christine is a performer.
That is true. Like, there's really not much there. And like, Carlotta and Christine are supposed to be foils of each other. And this adaptation just isn't particularly interested in that aspect.
Yeah, I mean, we're ostensibly told Carlotta is the big ticket name, but Christine's getting applause. Like, they could very easily be spinning this as A Star is Born. See Christine Daae before she is famous, you hipsters.
Yep, but, you know, you have to have that one credit.
They don't do that because apparently Bill Nighy would rather spend money on an excessive diva than cultivate his own star.
Yep.
Make it make sense. You are bad at business.
The math don't math.
His place isn't even in an office.
How many musical references to Phantom of the Opera will we make in this episode? The limit does not exist.
It is funny, though, to think about the fact that they combined the Raoul character with one of the managers.
Okay, that is funny.
It's not a terrible idea adaptation-wise, if you're trying to straighten
Yeah, I mean, it sidesteps one of the biggest problems in interpreting Raoul, because I'm on the record as a Raoul defender, and part of what makes Raoul come off as bratty a lot of the time is the fact that he's like, I don't know what's going on, Christine. Why won't you tell me what's going on? Why are you sending me all these mixed signals? And here it's like, oh yeah, that's just a bill for the ghost. It's a theater superstition. Respect the theater people. And also, Christine, I was so excited to ask you to marry me, but you're famous now and I have to respect you as a career woman. And hey, Christine,
that's wholesome.
I've been doing this amateur detective shit, and I'm pretty sure you're in danger.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
like,
no,
he's got his shit together. He kind of looks like Ewan McGregor. Good bean.
He looks like Ewan McGregor and Matthew McFadden's Mr. Darcy mixed together, if you ask me.
Yeah, it's the little chin dimple.
Meanwhile, I have been on record as being kind of anti-Raoul, at least anti-book Raoul. Musical Raoul is mostly fine, but book Raoul just comes off as very entitled as well. I am very much team Christine and Meg should just run away together. Yes, I'm aware their friendship is mostly a musical thing. Let me have this. I have nothing against Richard. I just feel like both Megs have better chemistry with our Christine, but again, I am a Megstein shipper through and through.
London Meg feels underwritten to me. She only really feels like she's there for the most part to be a sounding board so Christine is not talking to herself.
Well, yes, of course.
She's very sweet, she's very supportive, but the fact that she's clearly shipping Christine and Richard kind of makes it hard for me to go Team Megstein.
I guess, but I don't know. There's something about this actress's performance that takes what little she's got and then rolls with it in a way that I find her really appealing. And just, you know, the way she smiles down at her when she wakes up, I don't know.
It's wholesome. It's romantic.
I'm but a simple sapphic.
You are indeed. It's we love you for it.
Aww. Also, like, the graveyard scene, I fucking love how they adapted the graveyard scene. It's so good.
It was very good.
It's so creepy, and you're like, how did he do that? How did he do that with the lock?
Yes.
And the answer is shut up, he's the Phantom.
Don't ask questions.
Also, this particular Phantom does have supernatural elements, so it kind of works almost better than the ALW version.
I was thinking about, like, when they're talking about trying to investigate the murders in the beginning of the movie, like, it takes me back to the end of the ALW version.
We have all been blind, and yet the answer is staring us in the face. This could be the chance to ensnare our clever friend. We're listening. We shall play his game, perform his work, but remember we hold the ace. For if Mr. A sings, he is certain to attend. We make certain the doors are barred. We make certain our men are there. We make certain they're armed. The curtain falls. His reign will end.
Because it's one of my favorite parts. I thought that was really interesting that it was almost a reverse of that, because they were like, open all of the doors. I want to see what's inside everything, but keep the front door closed. I thought it was kind of interesting that they did an actual investigation into the murder.
Kind of took the story back to its mystery novel roots.
I am shocked they didn't just go all in and be like, and actually, the Phantom was also Jack the Ripper.
They were this close. I could feel it in my bones. But again, this Eric is actually pretty nice to sex workers.
You get
Truly.
1 point, Eric. You get one.
Listen, 1 point is better than none.
Although it was kind of funny how she's all, my name is Matty. It's just like,
baby girl, how long have you been doing this?
I mean, in her defense, I don't think he'd explained to her what he wanted.
I guess.
But, like,
also,
yeah.
Also, it's not uncommon.
Patrons of sex workers to do that kind of thing. In fact, that's kind of one of the tamer things.
Yeah, I know, but it does lead to a banger moment. Like, he throws her down on the bed, he's, like, pulling the hair away from her face and whispering, tonight, your name is Christine.
It's like, oh, the Christine Eric shippers are eating good there.
Yeah.
They're so happy.
Although some of them probably aren't happy because they don't like the idea of Eric fucking someone who isn't Christine.
That is true.
Phantom fandom can be extremely puritanical about who puts their dick where and in whom.
Yeah, basically you've got the Christine Eric shippers and you've got the Eric and OC shippers. So honestly, the Eric and OC shippers might be even happier.
Do you think it's possible that any of his one-night stands have ever resulted in a child? It's such a common thing in Phantom fandom to dabble with the concept of Eric has a child who is also disfigured in some way, and he has to deal with it.
Oh, you mean like what Love Never Dies could have done?
Yeah, I didn't say Andrew Lloyd Webber was part of the fandom.
I'm just saying.
I mean, the entire musical is basically his self-insert fanfiction, so isn't he though?
Once you start profiting off of it, I'm not sure if you're a fan anymore, which is why George Lucas has kind of ascended from Kurosawa fanboy.
That's fair. The fight scene with the pickpockets. Mwah.
That was cool.
Steal for Gold is kind of a banger line.
Honestly, it had a couple V for Vendetta vibes to it.
You know,
it did.
Some proto V for Vendetta, you're not wrong. And then he bowled the head. I shouldn't have laughed, but what was I meant to do?
Sorry, not sorry.
Don't lose your head. And speaking of,
there's a lot of good, like, beheading action in this between, again, he literally bowled a man's head, and then Carlotta's head in the soup. It's gruesome, but I love it.
Also,
I love a good beheading.
The method that he uses to kill the critic.
That was great.
I can't explain to you when and where Phantom adaptations decided we need Turkish bath scenes, and is the correct term now dwarves, little people?
Little people.
There's a preponderance of both Turkish bath scenes and little people in Phantom adaptations nowadays. I don't know why.
So what's the other one? Please tell me it's not Dario.
There is a Turkish bath scene in Dario. It's bad. I don't remember whether or not there's a little person in Dario. There's a little person in the 04 Phantom.
True.
There was... I'm hard-pressed to think of other ones now, but I still have at least 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it's happened twice.
That's such a random thing.
That is wild. But this was a fun time. Like, I had a good time. I love a good murder slasher. I love shitheads. Murder, shitheads. It has all of my stuff.
In fairness, this shithead is indeed rather charming in spite of it. Like, there's some very good gothic romance vibes in this movie.
So the big gothic romance scene of the two of them down in the sewers amongst all the candles, and she sings his music. My biggest quibble with that is that it kind of turns on a dime, because she's into it at first, and then something switches and suddenly she's afraid of him as he jams the ring on her finger, and I'm like, wait, did I miss something?
I mean, for one thing, he's moving them very fast for a first date, and also, clearly there's something going on that as he drew her in the first place, like, I think it just kind of snapped her out of it, even though she was just like, oh, play your music. And I wrote in my notes, I was like, oh no, are they cute? But then he decided to be a creep again, so like, okay, thank God. The Phantom's still a creeper, all is right in the world.
A lot of Phantom stuff depends on a manipulation of the Electra complex, let's be real.
Oh, for sure.
Which is better than the versions that decide there needs to be an Oedipal complex.
Yeah, no, please, we don't need more of that. I do not need more 50 Shades vibes in my Phantom of the Operas. They kill
Charles Dance Phantom, I love you, but that's one of the worst parts of your thing.
Yeah. But also, yeah, Meg just being so gleeful about Harrison's death, if that isn't girlfriend, whichever way you want to put it, behavior. Because, yeah, that critic was just so insufferable. I can't even say I'm upset that he died.
Sorrows, prayers.
Like, you know what, Eric? You can have this one as a treat.
In another life, this Harrison absolutely would have been in the Fandom Menace. Like, think about it. That he was basically just pissed off that his fave wasn't in center stage. That's really all
God.
He was also kind of being bribed to do it.
That too.
True.
Although, are you saying that there is no one in the Fandom Menace that is kind of being either bribed to do it or have a financial incentive to be dickheads?
I am not saying that at all, but he didn't seem like opposed to Christine until Barton was like, no, we need to vamp up Carlotta's ego, because if Carlotta sees that Christine is a success, I will lose Carlotta for this opera house.
Yeah, fair.
I think where he crossed the line was when he was like, and it's not even clear if she could have handled playing Sia Bell. And I'm like, Sia Bell is a trouser role that is generally comedic. Why would you base someone's performance as Marguerite on that?
Yeah.
I'm not even kidding. So, I have some measure of classical training. I've learned to sing Faites-le mes aveux, and it's a song that is partially about a boner.
Of course
it is a song in which a woman dressed as a man sings about how they are using a flower to express their love to the object of their affections, and then are convinced that Satan is trying to influence them because the flower is dying, and it must be because they have a boner.
Oh, God. Let it never be said opera is boring, dear listeners.
It's certainly something.
To be clear, some of this is my textual interpretation, but...
Fair enough.
Like, there's literally a line that translates to, it's withered, and is meant to be, like, looking down in horror, ostensibly at the flower in Sia Bell's hand, but, like, think about the eye line.
Does this remind you of anything?
And we are done with Opera Corner.
Opera Corner!
I want to understand what the deal is with Don Juan Triumphant and where this whole your eyes see but my shadow fits into it. Because if you'll remember Don Juan Triumphant as it shows up in the Phantom musical, it's largely about the idea of Don Juan seducing this young woman whom the Phantom names Aminta, not that it's ever seen or spoken in the actual musical. So the implication is that Don Juan is triumphant because he wins the girl and avoids getting dragged down to hell, which is how Don Giovanni, the Mozart version of Don John, ends. My experience with Don Giovanni is largely limited to learning one of Zerlina's arias, Zerlina being the ingenue servant girl that Don Giovanni is trying to woo. I specifically learned Vedrai Carino, which is kind of funny because it's her going up to her boyfriend, putting his hand on her chest, like on her boob, and saying, can't you feel my heart beating for you? And she's continuously singing, touch me here, touch me here. But it sounds prettier because it's Italian. She's going, tocca mi qua.
Oh God, it's the opera equivalent of that one part in Dead Girl Walking from Heathers. Touch me there and there and there. Oh my God, I never thought that Heathers And really, any opera would have something in common.
Opera is wild, y'all.
Yep.
Apparently less boring than I thought.
It's kind of like Shakespeare.
Yeah, exactly. It's considered this lofty, above it all thing, but no, it has ridiculous jokes like that. Anyway, yeah, so Christine recognizes, no, this is not your dad, and in fact, he means you harm.
That's when the final girl switch really happens. It's
Yep.
like, fuck, survive. And to her credit, the minute she gets Richard at the masquerade, she's like, we gotta get out of here.
Yeah, no, she's very smart about it, and to Richard's credit, he's not spending a whole lot of time being all, I don't understand what's going on. Like, Richard is a man of action, and I gotta give him credit for that.
The one mistake they made was splitting the party.
Yeah.
Girl, go with him to get the coach.
Never split up in a horror movie. But
you had one job.
Yep. And listen, I was quite devastated when Richard died, because it's so rare for the Rowells to actually die in these things.
And in such a brutal way.
But it was an interesting twist and an interesting take, and I did appreciate that.
It is devastating, but also it's like, oh, now you're fucked, Eric. She has nothing to lose now.
Nonsensical physics of the ring notwithstanding. Like, she's trying so hard to get it off through basically when he puts it on. And then, just when it's symbolically convenient, it slips off.
I mean, since this Eric is more supernatural than others, I'm thinking it's just that.
Yeah, it's always funny to me when movies draw attention to that, because, like, compare that to how the ring goes down in the original book, and it's falling off is basically an accident. Like, she doesn't even notice that it's happened until they come back from the roof, and she's like, shit, the ring is gone, oh my god, he's going to kill me, the ring is gone.
Mm-hmm. Movie logic, I guess. And again, she gets this really badass moment where she just utterly wrecks his shit.
Although they never show us, like, his music burning there, partially so they can do the big end twist of, surprise, bitch! I bet you thought you'd seen the last of me.
Yeah.
God damn it, hell is so hot, Ryan Murphy.
Hell is so hot.
But that line does slap. But yeah, let's get to that twist, shall we?
Right, so she wakes up back in the present day for this work that there's still no clear indication of what she's auditioning for.
But does it matter?
Yeah, it doesn't matter because she got the part and the producer is coming over to make sure she's okay. And again, we split the party because Meg goes off with the guy who was casting it to discuss Christine's contract and shit. And so Christine goes home with the producer, Mr. Foster.
Who, gee, that sure does look like Robert Englund, doesn't it?
Yep, and they're being really cute, but then he goes and, oh no, there's something wrong with his face. And she's got, like, 3D printed faces now?
It's very Dark Man. It's very Dark Man.
And so while he's doing that, she finds his very, very 80s computer setup, including dun dun dun, Don Juan Triumphant.
Yeah, I do kind of love that it's playing in, like, this very electrical 80s style.
Yeah, it's kind of funny that she takes the time to put it in and play. I don't know how 80s computers worked, but again, like, Christine,
sorcery, witchcraft, magic.
How are you sure he doesn't have backups? Christine, you gotta take a magnet to all of it. Christine!
Baby girl!
Leave no stone unturned.
80s computers were a work of mystery science and magic and sorcery and witchcraft.
Sure. But no, like, if she did that, then we wouldn't have the sequel tease, as all slasher movies must have. But yeah, she ostensibly defeats him. His entire face disintegrates. It's amazing. Again, we go back to the fact that he doesn't have a nose.
It looks so gross.
It does. But it's like in the way that it's fun, you know? Like, there's gross shit in movies that, like in Saw and stuff, where it's just like, ugh. But then there's this. Like, there's fun to this.
It's like decayed.
Yeah. I can't explain why this is so much more fun to me than what little I've seen of Saw, but it just is. I think it's such a heightened reality that it makes it easier to stomach.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. Like
horror movie logic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But in spite of the fact that we've been kind of making fun of the sequel tease at the end, I kind of dig it, because I kind of love the idea of someone who is reincarnated but is readily aware that she's reincarnated and is now very much aware, oh, fuck, this might keep following me.
Yeah.
Listen, it's better than, thanks for bringing me back to life, but what are we even doing here? And he's going to be a monster that helps us fight other monsters. It's better than that sequel tease.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
This has some atmosphere. This has some choice vibes instead of that shit.
I love that sequel tease because it's stupid and it's fun and I wish it had happened. But it is still objectively a better sequel tease.
I'm looking at... So Jill Scholien kind of had her career, like, fizzle out in the 90s. Like, she has a couple of credits in the 2000s, but not a lot. But it's very funny to me. The next movie she did after this was Popcorn, which some people would also argue is a Phantom-esque movie.
What?
I mainly know of Popcorn because it was another thing covered by the Phantom Reviewer.
Okay.
Ah.
Well, now I'm gonna have to look into that. I'm fascinated now. But
yeah.
But yeah, like, I like that kind of thing. Even one of my major works in progress kind of explores that very idea. I guess that's part of why I like a good final girl, because especially if she appears in more than just her original story, it's that level of being haunted, but you are fucking ready. Or are you? I mean, this is yet another Phantom adaptation that's just like, I see you, LaRue, and that he was just kind of born that way, but hear us out.
Yeah.
Have you considered?
Honestly, I think you can only do the born that way thing when you want the tragedy to be just that the world sucks.
Yeah.
As opposed to when it happens to him later in life, it's more of a, I know what I lost, and that's a completely different thing. And
for sure,
they both have their own merits, but I think it's so much inherently more tragic if you spend forever knowing what you don't have and only having it be a foreign concept and out there strolling by the sand.
I will defend the idea of it being something you lost as a formerly healthy person. Like, knowing what I had and what I have now, it makes me a little pissy. Okay, it makes me a lot pissy. I'm tempted to occasionally murder some people about it. FBI, this is a joke.
Kind regards, the NSA.
But, like, no, like, I can see, like, knowing what you had, looking at that healthy past normal life versus the now, making you a little cranky.
That's fair, although I would say this one kind of sidestepped a lot of what could be commentary on ableism and pretty privilege and whatnot, just because, you literally sold your soul to the devil there, buddy.
I agree, but
he didn't really understand what he was doing, but this is why you read the terms and conditions on your Warlock Pact.
Correct.
But Dorian Gray didn't realize what he was doing either, and that's still
not an excuse for how much of a bastard he is.
Speaking of Faustian bargains.
Faustian bargains.
We don't have time to talk about my feelings on Dorian Gray.
It will happen.
Someday. Much like this one, it's weird it's taken us this long to properly talk about it. And with that in mind, why does the Phantom of the Opera endure?
To just get it out of the way. Hi, Kyle. It's a Beauty and the Beast story. People are never not going to do Beauty and the Beast stories.
Especially not the French.
Andrew Lloyd Webber.
But yes, also Andrew Lloyd Webber. Like, much as we all have complicated feelings about the man at best, you can't deny that he absolutely rejuvenated this story.
Yeah. He did all the wrong things with it, but we can't deny that they are effective.
Yeah, as much as we like to make fun of it, it's too ingrained in our little theater kid hearts. In our lonely theater kid hearts.
And we're mad about it. And we're not going to take it anymore.
Yeah, we are.
But also, Christine Daae did nothing wrong forever and ever, and any choice she makes is completely valid.
Yes, I love her.
And also, Carlotta is not the evil witch that we make her out to be.
Yeah.
I mean, it depends. Oh. Well, yeah, but she was scared. She was threatened.
We'll get to it.
Oh, God, which adaptation are you thinking of?
Not telling.
Oh, God, I'm scared now.
I'm scared too. What a great way to end a slasher thriller on.
dear. But anyway, yeah, it is very much a Beauty and the Beast story. It's a tragic Beauty and the Beast story. And as much as we can tell Eric cool motives still murder, we do kind of feel for him. Like Gaston Leroux's whole thing was, hey, he would have been such a shithead if you guys hadn't been shitheads to him first. Like, gee, it's shocking. Shocking. I, a Carrie fan, feel like that resonates with me.
Gas.
Crack ship unlocked? Crack ship unlocked?
Underaged.
Oh.
Unless we age her up. If we age her up, I could accept it.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it's a question whether or not she survives that night.
Jazz always has her survive.
I mean, she literally dies in Sue Snell's arms in both the book and the musical, but obviously the movies like to play with, or is she? And don't even get me started on the Brian Fuller miniseries that did explicitly have her live in the end and was going to be the pilot for a TV show where she helps other telekinetics. We'll save that for when we inevitably cover Carrie.
Jazz just rewrote the script anyway. It's fine.
Yeah.
And it was beautiful and wonderful, and I got to give a great "you suck" speech.
Yes. But anyway, yeah, no. You know what? Go on, fan writers. If you age Carrie up, you have my blessing. Go ahead and ship her with Eric. I think we have something here. But in all seriousness, we are always going to be both sympathetic to and repelled by the Phantom. And Christine will always be an amazing proto-survivor / final girl. And
correct.
It's about the gothic romance vibes. And the theater kid energy. Final thoughts?
Movie fun and bloody good time.
I like assholes.
Jesus Christ, Callie.
In other news, water is wet. Climate change is real.
But yeah, no, this is absolutely in my Halloween rotation now, and it's lovely that we were able to find a Phantom that actually suits the theme of the dead are rising.
Remember, when you're destroying a warlock who's tied to his music, get every copy.
Yes. Or
use a magnet.
Or you'll be haunted forever.
And ever.
Anyway, who's got stuff to plug?
My name is Callie, and you can find me on all of the different social medias, including Letterboxd, Blue Sky, Twitter, Tumblr. I've got several different Tumblrs. If you like RP blogs, I've got a few of those in my link tree that you'll find in the bio. You know, I like to review movies on Letterboxd and basically comment on how pretty asshole boys make me happy. That's my favorite thing to do on Letterboxd. You know, just come watch me fall in love with more pretty asshole boys.
Boy, are you in for a good time for our Halloween special.
You know, if you like that, you can come follow me there. Then second thing is going to be, if you guys are able and your wallets are open, please consider donating to Hurricane Helene or Milton reliefs. While all of my friends and family were spared, I know some people in the areas who unfortunately were not. There were water plants in the Carolinas that were damaged so severely that they will have to be rebuilt, and they are currently shuffling water into those areas and will be for the foreseeable future. So if your wallets are able, consider donating to the organizations listed in the bio. And on a happier note, since you're listening to this Phantom of the Opera review, you probably like music. All music. Good music especially, though. And if you like good music, you should really go listen to the new EP released as of recording yesterday by Dalton DeShane and the Traveling Show called Bodies for the Geek Pit Part 1, which you can find on any of your music streaming services. They are a phenomenal musician, phenomenal artist. They're very talented. And please try to get them to the top of that Spotify, Apple Music list. The music video for Hell Breaks Loose is very Beetlejuice themed. So if you like Beetlejuice, go watch that on YouTube.
Don't say it again!
Yeah, God, no. I've already fought one demon today. I don't need another one. Sam, go.
I am the host of 6 Degrees of Star Wars, the podcast where we explore all the ways George Lucas's flagship franchise surrounds us, binds us, and penetrates us in the landscape of cinema. When this podcast episode goes up, our own Halloween episode, Grim Prairie Tales, will be aired, featuring our host, Jasmine Garcia. Additionally, I will say we are getting close to Election Day, and while I am not endorsing any specific candidate, I will remind you to A, check your registration, B, remember that elections are not just about the president, but also for your senators, representatives, and local government, as well as statewide ballot initiatives. For example, here in Massachusetts, we're voting to raise the minimum wage for tipped workers. That shit's important.
I pretty much second that, but since I'm not the Washington Post, I'll just out and out say it. Please vote for Kamala Harris. Don't throw your vote away on a third party that's probably a Russian puppet anyway. I know it's less than ideal, but the very people that you are claiming to be withholding your vote for, aka the people of Palestine, are out and out saying that a second Trump administration would make things worse. So check your voter administration and do the right thing, please. I can't do this again. We can't do this again.
If you live in Texas, you know what you need to do.
But on a much better note.
As always, you can find me on Twitter, Tumblr, TikTok, and Blue Sky at Favor Vieira. You could also follow the show on Twitter at IER Podcast. And if you would like to help us reach the next chapter of our story, please consider leaving us a review or rating us on the podcatcher of your choice, telling all of your friends and family about us. And even better, if you have room in your wallets, please consider donating to our Patreon, our Ko-Fi page, or just the support the show link below.
And that is the last Monday of October, but not the last episode of Monster Month 2, because as a special Halloween treat, we will be covering 2004's trash masterpiece, Van Helsing. We hope you'll come and join us, and remember, stories gain power in each retelling.
Poor, unhappy Eric. Shall we pity him? Shall we curse him? He asked only to be someone like everybody else, but he was too ugly. He had to hide his genius or use it to play tricks with when, with an ordinary face, he would have been one of the most distinguished of mankind. He had a heart that could have held the empire of the world, and in the end he had to content himself with a cellar. Ah yes, we must needs pity the opera ghost. I have prayed over his mortal remains, that God might show him mercy notwithstanding his crimes. Yes, I am sure, quite sure, that I prayed beside his body the other day, when they took it from the spot where they were burying the phonographic records. It was his skeleton. I did not recognize it by the ugliness of the head, for all men are ugly when they have been dead as long as that, but by the plain gold ring which he wore, and which Christine Daae had certainly slipped on his finger when she came to bury him in accordance with her promise. The skeleton was lying near the little well, in the place where the angel of music first held Christine Daae fainting in his trembling arms, on the night when he carried her down to the cellars of the opera house. And now, what do they mean to do with that skeleton? Surely they will not bury it in a common grave. I say that the skeleton of the opera ghost is in the archives of the National Academy of Music. It is no ordinary skeleton.